Welcome again to the S.E.M podcast. Jack Bryce and Zach Hewlett are here again hosting, and tonight we're joined by our good friend Julie Cahoon. Julie, how are you tonight?
Doing all right. I'll be honest.
I love it. What part of the world are you calling from tonight?
I'm in Centerville, Utah. So
All right, the Mecca.
there we go. Yeah, it's Centerville, Centerville. It's great.
Very nice.
So
Well, we talked before we started this recording that Julie's listened to a few of her favorites of the podcast, so she's familiar. But we'll talk about, anticipation and prior to your mission and getting your mission call. Then we'll skip over, talk about life since you've been home. Then we'll go back through the mission. So, Julie, I'll just turn the time to you.
oh, okay. Prior to the mission, let me think about this. Prior to the mission. That the question is, how far do you want me to go? No. I grew up in Colorado. I'm not a native Utahn, so I moved over to Utah to go to school. But I grew up in Colorado. My parents were divorced, and history of me, just like growing up in the church, I was kind of like a little bit of a project. I'll be honest. My mom was less active. My dad had remarried, and he remarried in the Jordan River Temple, and that kind of caused a rift. And there would be home teachers who reached out to us. If it wasn't for um, home teachers and visiting teachers and a good young women's um, counselor or leader, I probably wouldn't be here today, and I wouldn't have gone on a mission. Um,
Wow.
Sister Marva Priday, she's the matron of the Denver Temple. She was my young women's leader at the time, and I think of her as like I don't know. She was the person that I needed in my life at the time when I was 12. Um, so there's that part of the story. Like I was telling Jack, right? Zach and Jack.
Yep.
That I'm the only one, like, out of I have two older brothers, and then I'm the only one active in the church. I didn't tell this to Jack. My oldest brother took his name off the records of the rolls of the church, and then my other brother isn't involved in the church either. So because of those people in my life, I ended up going to BYU. And I don't know, I was all over the place. I didn't know what I was doing. I worked. Zach, you're in Colorado, right? Highlands Ranch, Colorado.
Yeah, Jack and I are both in Colorado. Yeah.
All right, Jack, where are you from? Like, what part are you in?
I'm in northern Colorado, Longmont.
Northern Colorado. Okay, Longmont. Okay. So I grew up in Littleton, Centennial area, and I worked at the AMC Highlands Ranch 24 when I was.
That's my go-to theater.
Yeah, I used to work there. I was an assistant manager there for several years. Anyway,
Thanks.
So it was like going to BYU and then going home and working. And like I knew I wanted to go on a mission. Yeah, I went to seminary and all that stuff, but like wasn't like BYU. I kind of floundered, I'll be honest. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a psychologist, and then I entered the art program because my mom was an artist, and you have to apply to the art program. But at BYU, I kind of had to find my testimony. Like I wouldn't say find my testimony because there was experiences that I had during my like young women years where like everybody has to be converted somehow, right? And I remember in Young Women's, it was just like, I'm going to pray to see if God exists. And it started there, right? You like just say a simple prayer. And that was answered. And I remember getting into general conference a lot and just, I don't know, like it kind of built upon itself. But at BYU, it was just an addition to that testimony. And it was a lot of going to the temple. I did baptisms. I remember when I got baptized, I got baptized because my bishop asked me to get baptized. Like you're 8, okay, like let's get
Yeah.
baptized. But I wasn't, I was like, what was that decision really? Like, and it was like when I was in college, I was doing baptisms. So I just had this prayer in my heart. It was like, Heavenly Father, like, do you know who I am? And it was during baptisms in like the Mount Timpanogos temple where I knew he knew who I was. And that just kind of led to one thing and another. Um, and I wanted to go on a mission, and there's that bit, right? Like BYU for me was finding out who I was spiritually, and a little bit of like what I want to do moving forward in my life. And it led me to putting in papers. I mean, I was at BYU for, I don't know, I was 21 when we were sisters back then. So I was there for a little bit. And put in my papers. And my family is so great, I'll be honest. That's a little sarcasm because my parents are divorced. It's been a mess with my whole entire life type thing. It was trying to figure out what my mom said versus my dad. And anyway, put in my papers, got my call, and it was an interesting, like, let's open the package, right? Let's open your mission letter. And my mom got so mad. She wanted me to open it with her. And my dad and my stepmom came. And there was this huge group of people in like BYU. I think I can't even remember where I was living. And they were surrounded, and we had pizzas and everything. And my mom's like, don't open it with them, open it with me. And I'm like, Mom, I'm here right now. I'm in front of everybody. We're having this like thing. And there, I don't know, just kind of crazy contention. And she hung up on me. I opened it with my mom, my dad and my stepmom, and with this huge group. And I was like, I'm going to Scotland, Edinburgh. And that's and that's how it was. And then I called her back and then told her where I was going. But it always seemed to be this struggle with my family. And anyway, not that you guys want to know that, but that's part of my story of going to Scotland. This little bit of battle with my family, because it was messy. It still is messy. I mean, there's been some healing that has come, like, 20 years later, but still a little bit messy. And that's okay. Like, I've kind of had some things that I've had to work out, and it's part of the gospel of Jesus Christ is understanding situations and empathy. But that's probably not why we're here. But anyway, it's part of my story. So
no, I appreciate that you shared that, because I'm sure that shaped a big part of who you were as you got into the mission. And obviously, like you said, it shaped the rest of your life as well. So thank you for being vulnerable and sharing those things. That's a big deal. Timeline wise, when did you enter the MTC?
Timeline wise, it was July of 2023. So when President Reigns came out, I was coming out. So like, and was it Lorna Laird when she came out, we were in the MTC together. So,
Okay.
and it was crazy because my luggage got lost. I was supposed to go to Chicago. We got routed to go directly from Denver to, oh, I can't even remember where it was, wherever, Preston. We got to Preston. They lost my luggage. And we went to the
Oh
Preston
man.
MTC. It was fantastic. And I had to survive off my companion in the MTC for a little bit. So, sister of Australia, she was from Russia. I ended up taking her through the temple. Like that was interesting. Like she was a sister from Russia, and the mission president's wife was like, that's amazing. She wrote me a few times, like, ever since you invited me to do this, I've just been finding stuff, and I listened to a few of the podcasts and was like, oh, things are coming to remembrance. I mean, there's integral parts of my mission that I've remembered and been like grateful for, but like some things just kind of flooded back. But so went to the MTC July 20, July
2003.
2003, yes. And
Okay. And then you would have gotten home like December, January timeframe of 04, 05?
I was 04, yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So I didn't extend.
Well, fill us in on what
So,
you've been up to since you've been home from your mission in December of 04.
December of 04. I went back to BYU. I floundered around at BYU for a little bit. Yeah, it's been a journey. I'm not married. Haven't gone down that journey, but for those who have, congrats. Good for you. So that sounds a little sarcastic. It's the single life, but it's. I used to cry about not being married, and now I'm fine with it. It's like my mom says, I have control of the remote. I can spend my money how I want to. um, there will be a time. I don't know. You don't have to. Like, I was reading through my mission letters. I'm like, man, I really struggled with companions. Anyway, I got it. I really did. Oh my gosh, there was one thing in here. I was like, if this was a real relationship, we would have been divorced. I was like, I wrote that to President Brains. I was just laughing. I mean, like, I couldn't. I won't tell you who that was about, but anyway, maybe it will. I don't know. But I floated around. I got an art degree from BYU. So the thing is, it was BYU and art. Like, I got into the art, like, painting and drawing program. When you talk to Martha Schoenfeld or Martha Miller, like, I floundered around. I was like, what am I going to do with painting and drawing? Like, I mean, I could draw, but I mean, like, how do you survive off of a degree? Like, you have to be really good at selling this piece of art. Like, buy this and buy it for a lot of money, please. Like, I mean, that was kind of like my realization. And so, I applied and got into the industrial design program at BYU. And Martha was in the industrial design program, and then she met her hubby, and then she was out. I mean, I wouldn't say that. Like, she's gonna watch this and she's gonna be like, Sister Cahoon. I mean, her family is a creative genius. If you go down to Provo, that area, all that stuff, it's like Martha's family, and it's her cousins, and it's her cousins. I mean, huge creative family. The Millers, like, her dad was, he was one of the industrial design heads, and her mom, I mean, geniuses. So anyway, met Martha. We did industrial design for a little bit, and BYU had, I wouldn't say politics with that. Like, I was in the program for 2 years, and you had to apply every year. And so the last year I was in it, they said they were going to take the top 20, and then they changed it to the top 15, and then they changed it to the top 10, and then it was the top 7, and I was 19 out of 20. So I didn't make it in to my junior year of industrial design. And so I was like, okay. And I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with BYU. I'm a Utes fan now, just because. Anyway, that's not so. Anyway, I was like, okay. I was the graphic artist for the Daily Universe at the time. I was like, okay, I'll get a BA. I wanted a BFA, but that never happened. Look at this dog. Anyway, I got a BFA. He is persistent to the max. I got a BA in visual design. I was like, or visual art or something like that. I was like, I was at BYU until like 2008, and so I got a job doing it was religious art, Amalfi art for Robert Boyd and Joseph Rickey. It was like an internship. They let me go after 6 months or 4 months or whatever. I'd never buy a Robert Boyd painting. How many people is this going to? Never mind. I'm not going to say this. If you like temples and you like pictures of temples, go get Robert Boyd. Anyway, there's my whatever. So there's that. Like, you guys, are you sure you're anyway?
You cracked me up, Julie. Goodness.
Yeah, there's that. So I did that, and then I worked for Metal Mart for a little bit, and I mean, anyway, they're a good family-owned company. I don't do well with family-owned companies in Utah. It's like me, oil and water. I don't know. So we did that, and this is real. This is a real story, Zach. I think you're a Utes fan, so I'm gonna tell you this. Metal Mart, they're all BYU fans. And so one day I was like, fine. I took a Utes logo and photoshopped the CEO of Metal Mart on a Utes background and put it on my background on my computer. I'll say the least, I'm no longer working for them. So what you don't do.
Oh man. I can appreciate that though, Julie. Well done.
It's pretty funny.
I'm no longer working in the art field. I had a few bad bosses. The last boss threatened to sue me 3 times. So I changed careers. I went into he was a peach. We'll just say that. So this is a non-cursing broadcast, so I will not curse. Okay, like since the mission, I have changed a little bit. All right, I've become a little more Scottish, if you get what I'm saying.
There you go.
So there's that piece, right? I did art for I did art admissions at an art school, Broadview Entertainment Arts University, for a year and a half, and then I did financial aid for their sister school, and then financial aid at Broadview University ended up leading me to Discover Financial Services. So I've been working for Discover Financial Services for 6.5 years now. And I never in my life thought I would be a debt collector. But yes, I am a debt collector. And I don't take a bat to work every day, but I am a team leader. So I'm a team leader for a team in the collections department at Discover Financial Services. But I was on the phones for 4.5 years. They took incentive away, and then I decided to go into leadership. So that's a little bit of what I've been doing on the side. On top of that, right now I'm a caregiver to my mom. I got into like 33. When I hit 33, I was like, what am I doing with my life? And so I started running. So here's a fun one. Like, I ran the first ever race that I ran was a marathon, which was crazy. Go big or go home. Like, okay, what am I thinking? And like, I wasn't fast either. Like, I suck at running. I'm going to just say that right now. And like, it took me 6.5 hours to finish the race, but I did it. It was Ogden Marathon. And so I started doing that. Like, I ran Ogden, and then I told myself if I ran the marathon that I'd get a bike. And so then I started cycling, and I did a few centuries. I threw this out there. I did a Ragnar with some friends, and then one guy in the group was like, so what are you going to do with running? I'm like, I don't know, run on the Great Wall of China. So I went and ran on the Great Wall of China.
You
Like,
did. Holy
I
cow.
did. Yeah, so that
That's
was fun.
cool.
I didn't get the marathon. I tapped out. I got 18 miles in before I was like 7 hours and 45 minutes. I'm done. I'm not going to go over that wall again, but
Man.
Wow.
there's that. We traveled a little bit. We went to Israel with my mom and went to China and went to Australia. So there is that. But that's what I've been doing after the mission. So it's been flopping around and work. I'm the HOA president in our community right now. I don't recommend that for anybody. No, if you think that's a good idea, say no. Like,
Oh man.
I
For
got
Jack and I here in Colorado, yeah,
oh,
we're not going to do that.
yeah. Well, aren't you a realtor or something like that, Zach? I mean, like, not that I'm whatever, but
Yes, I
yeah,
am.
you know.
But I don't.
You know the world.
I think I'd have a hard time being the HOA president because everybody would know I had a different agenda, probably.
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. Jack, remind me what you do, Jack.
I'm an operations manager in aerospace and
Operations.
defense.
Oh man, that's serious stuff. All right, okay, all right. Well, that's hey, that's
Super
good.
serious. Yeah.
Super serious, man. Okay.
Well, that's
yeah,
great,
so-
Julie. Thank you for your background on what you've been up to since the mission. Take us back now to the MTC if you want to go further into that, or just jump right into Scotland.
Oh gosh, MTC. So I served the MTC with Sister Laird. Finally, but Sarah, I guess this will be later on. I'm a pack rat, and I like pack stones in my luggage throughout my mission. Anyway, I'm learning to go less and lighter, but I finally got my luggage. MTC. Hey, it's the MTC. They had some good food. Gain your MTC 10, whatever. Sister Laird was there. We went out together. Sister of Australia, she was going. I can't even remember where she went. She was my MTC companion. I read over some of her letters, and I just thought, you are a strong woman to be a member of the church in Russia. And it was great. Preston was beautiful. The MTC was beautiful. And then came to Scotland and met President and Sister Rains, and I met my trainer. And who loves their trainer? Anyway, I don't know.
Zach does.
I do. Otherwise, Jack will find me and beat me.
All right.
I was Zach's trainer.
Oh, are you serious? Are you serious?
Yeah.
No way. Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's a great relationship. So, yeah. When I trained, it came back and bit me. So, like, I don't know. That's, that's good times. So, Sister Jones was my trainer, and we whitewashed. And we whitewashed in Dundee. So, we went to Dundee for the first area. And I was reading over some of my letters, and Dundee. It was great. It's interesting. Like, started off like, Zach, here you go. I prayed and prayed, and I found my letters to the mission president, and it was like I knew they existed.
Gosh.
Oh my gosh, I don't know. Like, it's 20 years, and they've survived after a move, 2 moves anyway, and they were in existence. But so we went to Dundee. I don't know. It was interesting. How did it start? One of the first, I guess, miracles in the mission happened on a P day. Like, it was one of the first P days that I was with Sister Jones. I remember this vividly. I have glasses, and it was a P day, and I had lost the lens to my glasses. Like, I looked up, and one of the lens was in my glasses, and one was not. And I just thought, oh, this isn't good. And we said a prayer. And I remember specifically saying very distinctly in the prayer, Heavenly Father, I know that you know where my lens is. And I know that you, like, this is your work, and it may take longer if I can't find my lens to get this work done. And so you need help finding this lens. And can I tell you guys, I found the lens. You know where I found it, though? That's the crazy thing. It was raining, it was in a gutter, and there was water going over it. And I was walking along, and the thought was just look down. I looked, and that's where the lens was. And I'm like, that's an
My
answer to prayer.
gosh.
I mean, literally, like there was water going over the lens, and it was there. And I just thought, okay, Heavenly Father answers our prayers. Now, it came to missionary work, it was a little bit of a struggle in Dundee. I was reading over it, and in that first area, Sister Jones, it was her last 6 weeks, and she had some things going on. So there were some things that she was struggling with, like her had died of cancer, and her dad had gotten remarried, and she was going home, and she was kind of not happy about that. But then she was also not feeling good too. And so we'd go out and shop. There was some member work that we were doing, but I just felt like we would go and serve. There was an Alzheimer's home that we would serve, and it was just like the beginning of the mission, right? Like going in, and there was a lot of rejection. I remember there was one door that I just cried on because of the type of rejection. And I was reading through the letters. I was like, man, people were just rejection after rejection after rejection. We'd go through like Bingham Square, I guess, in the mall, and like we would part the waves. We were kind of like Moses parting the water. I mean, that's like we would walk through and people would be like, ooh, you know?
Oh goodness.
Like, this is the mission, you know? So it was a little bit of member work. There was, oh, we probably fought a little bit. But I mean, you do the best you can. Looking back at it, I think Sister Jones recently went back and reached out to me, and she was like super excited. And she wanted to, reconnect, and I was like, "All right, Julie, put the things in the past and reconnect." And I think that was the one thing on the mission. I just remember specific things about my companions. You go out and you serve and you sacrifice, and sometimes going back home is not always easy. And so I guess looking back at Sister Jones, I probably was a snarky trainee because I'm like, why aren't we doing this? Why are the heavens like falling down? And I guess it was big. Oh, what was it? The second harvest. They talk about the second harvest in the MTC. Do you guys remember that? Like, it was like, bring the second harvest to Scotland, and was all fired up about it. But I mean, like, it wasn't as easy as, like I wanted to do that. Like, I think we all wanted to do that. And we did some member work. We found, like, we brought Alex Active back, and then he like baptized his nephew, something like that. And that was like kind of like the first little area in Dundee, because we were whitewashing, and it was like, okay, Sister Jones was serving in the other half of Dundee and then came over to the other side. So there was Sister Jones. Sister Stanger came in after she left, and Sister Stanger, I can't remember too much about Sister Stanger, except I think she was a hairdresser, and it may have been her last 6 weeks as well. And so And I was reading through the letters, and I think Sister Stanger said that she still felt like we were whitewashing, because I was looking at it like, you guys remember these? I don't know. When did you guys serve? You guys were probably
we're not too far behind you.
the electronic age, but do you guys remember these at all? I don't know.
My.
I
Yeah.
know. No,
I don't
you
remember
don't
that.
remember these. You don't remember these at all. Like, I literally, it was like the people that we had on our teaching pool, and it was like week to week, and it was our goals and contact and people. There's a person on here that we taught named Aphrodite. I was like, oh man, they gave us a fake name. I didn't know that at the time. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, anyway. And yeah, I mean, I have all of this stuff. I was like, no way. I like have all of it. Anyway, so
That's great.
Sister Stanger, we chapped. We found a couple that was like, why hasn't anybody told us about Joseph Smith before? And we go back, and their house burned down, and we lost contact. It was like, wow,
Oh my
you're
goodness.
saying that. Oh yeah, that was kind of like some of the crazy stuff that happened.
Awful.
And then Sister Stanger, I guess we had a Polish couple. I was reading about this Polish couple. We gave them a Polish Book of Mormon, but they were fighting about Joseph Smith, and like they had a baby, and then they didn't want us back over because he didn't want, the Doc Joseph Smith, and she was for it. And so we had that type of thing that happened, right? There was a lot of opposition. There was a cool miracle that happened in Dundee too. So Sister Sanger came, she left, and then I got Sister Bond came in, and Sister Bond. So, because I was 3 transfers in Dundee, and then I like whitewashed my whole entire mission except for my last area. I was realizing, I was like, are you kidding? All I did was whitewash. So there was a lot of member work. There was this one sister that randomly said, I'm going to come to church, and she did. And then I guess we followed up. There was elderly individuals who were interested in the gospel, like World War II. So, but it wasn't like President Marines was like, pray for families. We weren't finding our families, let me tell you. I mean, we found this one lady, Wendy, and she was in Montefiore, and we went back, and she ended up rejecting us. But while we were in Montefiore, so I think it was Sister Bond and I, or Sister Stanger and I cannot remember. We went down to one of the beaches in Montefiore, and we just felt like we should go down there. And I don't know. No, Sister Bond didn't tell you this story when she talked to you guys. So we go down there, and we started talking to the people that were on the beach. And this guy named Ron, we talked to him and stopped him, and he was like, oh yeah, well, I would have been baptized years ago, but I moved away, and the missionaries that were teaching me were like left or something like that. And he said, well, can we come and teach you? He's like, I can't give you my address. You're going to have to find me. And he pointed up to the hill of Montefiore and said, I live up there, or something like that, right? He points up and he says, find me, which this seems to be a theme in my mission. It was like, okay, find me. All right. So we go, and we're teaching Wendy, and I don't know what happens, but we're like walking to the bus, and we see Ron again walking his dog. And so it was like, hey, Ron, can we come teach you? And he's like, you're going to have to come find me. And I'm like, okay, Ron. And so last time we go see Wendy, we get rejected, and she's like, and I really can't remember, except like we were on this road and Sister Bond was like, we're leaving. And I'm like, Sister Bond, I just stopped there. I'm like, it's time to find Ron. Out of the blue, I'm like, it's time to find Ron. And she's like, okay, we'll just do this. We'll just chap this side. Or I was like, let's go and just chap this side road. First door, nobody. Second door, Ron. And we found Ron. And it was like, it was ridiculous. I mean, he had, what is it? Here, hold on. This is like the first thing I found after you invited me to do this was Ron's elders. So he gives me his elders, and we go back there and I guess show him and his wife finding faith in Christ. And the spirit, it's like you cut it with a knife. You know, those times where it was just like, wow, heaven's open, like the Spirit of God is here. Like it was ridiculous. And he gave us, it was Wallace A. Hamblin in Kanab, Utah, Samuel G. Longbotham from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and Kenneth Young from Pingree, Idaho. His missionaries back in 1978 who taught him originally. We didn't go.
Oh my gosh.
It was Ron Chambers or something like that. And like I wrote to President Brains, I'm like, can you find these guys? And I didn't get a response. But I mean, like, I don't know. But we found him, and I don't know what happened because we found him and we had gotten like movement, and we were going to Beef to whitewash. And so we were on the downward end of like, okay, we're leaving this area. We're gonna put his name in the area book, and hopefully the elders can pick up where we left off.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I mean, and I don't know what happened to Ron. I'll be honest, I wasn't really good at following up because I read my mission letters and all I said was I'm completely inadequate. I'm like, okay, Julie, you have to admit, like, the Lord blessed us on the mission and there was some mighty miracles that happened, and you gotta stop saying you're inadequate. I read them, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a different person now than I was before, I'll tell you that. So anyway, so
Julie, you know what you need to do? You should send me a picture of that, because there's a Facebook group called the Scotland Edinburgh Mission 1975 to 1983, and I can post it on there and see if we can track those people down. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. That would be the prayer that's answered 20 years later. I don't know if Ron is still alive. I don't think he is. Who knows? I mean, maybe he is. I don't know. And I don't know if he came into the waters of baptism either. So it was like, okay, well, yeah, but I'll send it to you. It was, I mean, it's a miracle. Cool. It was, you know, in that instance, like the Spirit of the Lord, and that's happened to, like, it happened to me multiple times on the mission, where it was just like, okay, listen, act, and then something awesome would happen. But
yeah,
there was that. Sister Bond told you the story where we had fireworks. So the flat in Dundee was on Ogilvy Street, which is right outside like the football pitch in Dundee. And she told you the story, but like I don't know what night it was, or some night with fireworks. Maybe it was Guy Fawkes night. I don't know. So we come back to her flat. We had fireworks shot at us. Like she said this story, and she did get pushed out of the way, and I didn't push her. But to add to this story, like we were freaked out, and I asked for a blessing from the elders, and the blessing that I got was really kind of cool, and it kept coming to my mind. One of the elders blessed me that I would be like Samuel the Lamanite and protected like Samuel the Lamanite. And I didn't, and I'll be honest, my Book of Mormon wasn't great. And so it was like Samuel the Lamanite. So I go back and I'm like, this is Samuel the lame night guy. And I'm like, Julie, you're serving the mission. You should know these things, right? And I'm like, I mean, I bear testimony of Jesus Christ, right? It goes back to that, like, building blocks, right? This is how I know God. But it wasn't. And so here I'm like, okay, Samuel the lame night. And like there was multiple times where we had instances where there was either Neds or bottles being thrown at us or fireworks. And we were protected, or I was protected. And so that promise was fulfilled after that night. The Lord had kept his promise when it came to my safety, but also with Sister Bond in that instance. So
Yeah,
that happened.
that's pretty cool. Wow.
And it's true. I did not push her out of the way, but she was protected as well. But that's kind of I don't know. There's probably more to Dundee than that, but those were like the big things that kind of came to my mind. We went and whitewashed Beef. I did go golfing on, what was it? St. Andrew's Golf Course. I told that to my dad. He was like, "What?" I was like, "We just went and did, like, we were just driving some balls, Dad." And he was like, "You went on St. Andrew's Golf Course. Your grandpa Cahoon would have died." I mean, I was like, "What's with this?" I don't get it. Anyway,
It's just a patch of grass, Dad. It's no big deal.
I know, right? Apparently, it's a big thing. It's a thing. It's a thing. So, yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. So, anyway, I did do that in Dundee too. But okay, so beef. Apparently, you can't baptize a beef. That's what they say.
You mean you heard that mission song?
Oh, I don't know. Probably. I didn't even know, man. I was so naive. I was there to just preach the gospel. I wasn't there to whatever. And I was kind of one of those like missionaries that was like, was it sacrifice brings blessings and all that stuff? And yeah, I was big onto that. Anyway, which is fine because it does. And like there were some awesome things that happened on the mission. So we went to Beef. There was some drama in Beef. Being in Beef, like there was a prophecy made that Beef would be beef steak. And I don't know where Beef is, right? Like if it's a branch or if it's more than that now. I don't know because I haven't followed up, to be honest. And well, we went to Beef and we whitewashed in Beef, and there were some cool things that happened in Beef. And yeah, Sister Bond at the time, if you did talk to Sister Bond, and she was all really obsessed with her mail. That's true. I can testify of that. And can I just say, Scott, like, he like wrote stuff down in different colors and some other stuff. It's you can tell he really cared. And I mean, it was important. That was important to her. It was important to Sister Bond. Sister Bond, she was amazing. She was a powerhouse. Sister Bond was one of those people. I remember, I think it was in Dundee or something like that. I don't know if we had an argument, heaven forbid, that happens with companions. And she was like, "Sister Cahoon, I'm not going to forgive you until I feel like I am to the point where I can forgive you." And so she was just very forward. And she was like, "I'm not going to say sorry if I don't mean it." And so, like, that was Sister Bond. And hey, it was like, hey, you're being genuine and vulnerable. Might as well. I mean, we'll give it to you. So, but we whitewashed. Let's see, when we baptized in Beef, but ironically, we came into the area, and there was two elder sisters that had served. It was Sister Bond and Sister Bird, and they ended up having to go home. I can't remember for some reason or another, but there was some drama that happened in Little Beef. So there was a baptism that Sister Bond and Sister Bird did in Beef, and then that person or individual that they baptized got excommunicated for sleeping with a member of the church's husband, like right after. I was like, that's
Oh boy.
a little tidbit. So, like, we're going into a situation that we're not like really clear about. So we go in there and like, thanks, Prez. Love you too. Anyway, we go in there and it was Christmas time. There's a few cool things that happen in Beef. Like you're whitewashing, like I was going through pages of, and you know how in Scotland you had like ward members and there would be like 400 people on the roster, but there's like 40 people going to church and you're like, what's happened? And you go through it, and I was going through the names, and I just remember. So there was an old man named Walter. I can't remember his last name in the Beef area. And we had never met him before, but we were going over a hill, and I had this impression that came into my mind that says, this is Walter. And so we go up to him, and I said, hello, Walter, how are you tonight? And he was, of course, Walter in the Beef branch, and he was this 86-year-old happy-go-lucky guy who got baptized, I don't know, it was like 15 years prior to that. But like at that time, like Heavenly Father put that in my head because I had never met Walter.
Wow.
And Walter knew, like he went up and bore his testimony about that experience, and he said, I knew that the Savior knew me. And I will tell you this, it was thought in my head, and we said hello, Walter, never meeting him before. And Heavenly Father knew him very personally. Like and like that's the thing, like Heavenly Father is very aware of his children in Scotland. And whether the work was easy or not, it's a different thing, but he was very aware of his children in Scotland. So there was that happened. We met a lady named May Mackenzie. Word of wisdom. I don't know if you guys had problems with word of wisdom in Scotland, but let me tell you.
Not me personally.
No. Let me tell you. They would not give up their tea. They would not give up their cigarettes. And let's have a little booze on the side. And like, I don't miss the bar spots in Scotland. Like, I don't miss that at all. And I didn't. And so May let us come and teach her. I don't know if she ever got baptized. We gave baptismal commitments to her. And May Mackenzie. This so many, I don't know, stories is the right thing, but she came to church, and I, like I said, I felt really inadequate as a missionary. Like that was like over and over again. And I'm like looking at this, it's like in the Little Beef branch that's like 15 people or whatever, 15, 20 people. We would have like 4 or 5 investigators come out to church. Like it got to a point where there was 4 or 5 investigators coming to church every Sunday. And it was like, wow, in the Beef branch, and so May was one of them. Asked Sister Bond. May had a white cat, and there was one time we went to I don't know, it was like a zone meeting or a district meeting, and the elders were like, did you sit on a cat or something? And we had been at May's house and stuff like that, but that white cat, Sister Bond liked that white cat. And I mean, I like the white cat too. Who can't say no to her baby? So there's that. Well, Mackenzie.
It's funny.
she struggled with her cigarettes. She was older too, and I don't know if like the accountability piece, right? So, I think one of the most like one of the leaders that I remember most came out of Beef as well. So Kieran Goddard, he's on that Scotland mission page all the time and stuff like that. He's a branch president in Beef at the time too. And I think like when you're looking at missionary work and thinking about missionary work and success, you also have to have like the member buy-in too, right? And the leadership to back you on that.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because Kieran with President Goddard was really devoted to the work, and we present names to him, and here he's like, "Okay, we'll take this," and then there would be people in the congregation would be like, "I doubt that's going to happen." Like we had that with Jim and Isabel Jackson. They're less actives in that area, and the members did not think that they would come to an activity, and they had some deep stuff. Like she lost a baby. I think he cheated on her. There's some deep stuff that happened to him where they just sit there and question God, like, why did this happen? And we went over, I can't remember, maybe it was some story that I told for my family, because Sid, family's messy. We started off, my family's messy. It's not the perfect, like, hey, all my family members went on a mission and everybody, like, that's not my family. And so, yeah, my mom, like, when she joined the church, um, a priest took her brother away. And so it was just my mom and my grandma in the church, and there was that type of opposition. It was like that kind of stuff happened in my family. And it was like later on, like 20 years later, that my granny like met up with her son after she joined the church, and my mom got accused that she joined a cult and stuff like that. And I don't know what I said or what Sister Bond said. I can't remember. Like, um, but Isabel and she came to a barbecue. Beef. They did a barbecue, and Kiernan was like, "Yeah, I'll put her on the list of coming back." And she stepped on to the grounds of Beef Branch, and I think everybody who was there, their jaws dropped because they didn't believe that she would come. And I mean, you tell them it's individual, right? Like you have to have that moment where it's between you and God, and there's some healing that happens, and but you also have to have that belief too that it can happen. And like I think I was quoting Sister Bond to be like, have the faith that you put something together that people will come, and she did. I don't know what happened after that too. Like I said, I didn't keep up with Beef Branch, but she came. We were doing member work. Um, we brought in Barry Welsh. I think we knocked on his door in Beef, and we chapped on his door. He got baptized. And let me tell you, oh, that was rough. And that was like Sister Bond left. And I don't know what happened. I think she had a little bit of a breakdown, or maybe I was just being jerky with, I don't know. I mean, the mission's hard, right? So she had a little bit of a breakdown. Maybe not. I don't know. She moved. She was freaking out. Like she tells this story. It was Christmas time. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. Oh my gosh, I chat a lot. So if I'm overdoing it, guys, you
No,
can just be like,
no,
"No, stop talking."
you're doing great, Julie.
So anyway, like Christmas time in Beef, I'm with Sister Bond. So there's some cool things that happen to me in Beef. Like spiritually as a missionary, right? You have some cool things that happen, or you could have some cool things, or you don't have some cool things, because I have stories about that too. But anyway, Christmas time, I don't get my Christmas box, and then we talk. I guess we talk on the phone to our family, and Sister Bond she said to me, she was like, Sister Cahoon, if you don't ask, you won't get. Like, seek and you shall find, ask and it shall be given to you. So she asked President Brains if she could talk to Scott at Christmas time. I was like, what is this? But I didn't have anybody like at home. It was my crazy, I wouldn't say my crazy family, but it was like my family. And so she's talking to Scott and having this, I mean, maybe it's a good old time, I don't know. And here I'm talking to my family, and like my sister-in-law's on the phone and she steals the phone from my mom, and I get to talk to my mom for like 10 minutes, and then like the phone drops, and then my mom got so mad at my sister-in-law that she doesn't speak to them for 3 months and some other stuff. So here this is happening, and here my family's blowing up, and I'm like, yay, families can be together forever. Like, I mean, seriously.
Oh man,
So,
goodness.
but so that happens, and I lost my package for Christmas. You know how, missionaries like their packages in mail, and that's, I mean, like Sister Bond said, she would just run to the mailbox or like the door every morning. And I had lost my package, my Christmas package. And I remember this story every year. Every year when Christmas comes around, I remember the story because it was that relevant in my life. It was Sister Bond and I had gotten a little, I don't know, we got a little cheesecake or something, and we got, oh, it was all this little food for having a little Christmas dinner, like a missionary little Christmas dinner. We had some lights going, and there was, I don't know, some church in the background with bells going on in the background. And Sister Bond said, let's read 3 Nephi 1 and Luke 2:52 and read about Samuel the Lamanite and stuff like that. And as we read that, and as we read about the Savior's birth, the Spirit of the Lord came upon me and testified to me of the importance of the Savior and his birth. And it was just the bells that were ringing and the time of the Nephites, how they were praying for Savior to come. And, and the and and the symbol of the day and the night and the day, where it was all of that, just the spirit of all of that. And just the miracle that happened both in the Book of Mormon and in the Bible, and that record was just a testimony to me that Jesus lived and he walked on the earth. And it was this small moment in this apartment in Beef that I had, this experience. And I couldn't deny it. Like, and that to me was those things on the mission that happened on the mission that were just powerful to me, that I can't deny. I'd be lying to you to say, like, in times now where you see missionaries leave the church, right? I couldn't leave the church, as much as maybe the temptation might be there or something like that, or maybe I don't agree with something. It's those moments that are brought to my remembrance of the power of God and the truth of the message that we bring, or that we were teaching. And so, that happened. And I mean, and there was other things that happened in B. There was, and you can't speak to the preciousness of that, right? Like, later on, I was given a blessing that, things on my mission would come to my mind throughout my life. And, that's been one of those things that I've been reminded of every year of that time. So,
It's beautiful.
and
It is.
it's a small moment, but it's always for 20 years, like that time was something that I could remember back on. And so, and I'm grateful, that doesn't always happen to everybody, but I'm grateful that, in a small part of Scotland, Heavenly Father was aware of me. So,
Yeah.
and my needs. And so, and he was aware of Sister Bond's needs, right? She got what she got, and I got what I needed. So, I mean, and I can't deny that. So, there was that. What else happened? We taught. Oh, I trained in beef. We ended up running into a guy named Barry Welsh. He ended up getting baptized. His story was interesting, and I can't remember if we chapped into him, and I think it may have been with Sister Bond, but maybe not. We did stuff. There was a lot of May Mackenzie. There was a lot of. I mean, you see this in Scotland. There's a lot of people who were they'd get angry at each other and then just leave the church. And Beef, like Kieran Goddard, he was in the Glasgow region and he was assigned to be branch president in Beef. And so, not to say that there weren't priesthood brethren in that area that held the position of branch president, but I mean, at the time, Kieran had been brought in, but there were local leaders too in that area too. But anyway, we chapped, and Barry, we taught him, and I'll be honest, I don't know if it was the greatest 6 discussions by mission, but we got there. When he got baptized, I was with Sister Barker at the time, and we filled the font, and I don't think they knew that they couldn't get warm water in the font. They spelled Barry's name wrong, and it was like, is he going to get baptized? And we weren't even quite sure if he was going to get baptized. It was like, okay, is he going to get baptized? And
Gosh.
with all the inadequacies that came with that, he got baptized, and it was the members took him in, and I'll be honest, there was a single lady, I think her name was Deidre or something like that. I think she took him in under her wing, and he had home teachers, and I mean, Beef Branch went for it. So, area of Beef, like so Cahoon could be a big name in the church, and like I was given family history of Cahoons in the past who had served in Scotland that people in the branch found. When I was with Sister Barker, when I was training Sister Barker, there was an experience that we had where we taught the first discussion to a guy named Peter Dunn. And Peter Dunn, when we stopped him, he had a bag of groceries that was full of like Coke and rum. And so, like, literally bag of Coke and rum, and he had cried after receiving the first discussion. And I think we told that to somebody. I don't know if it was a stake president or somebody in the branch, and they were like, well, he was drunk. He was going to cry anyway, or something like that. I was like, but you had this moment, like, okay, like, so you have that going on, and like, Sister Barker was bold. I was encouraged. She's like, okay, like, you got to stop doing this. We went over. She followed up, and she had some health issues too. We followed up, and we went over there one time. I don't know if it was with a member or not, and if it wasn't, then ta-ta on us for not being completely obedient. We go over there, and literally he had Coke and rum bottles everywhere, and he had like dishes of like cigarette butts and stuff like that. And we challenged him. I think Sister Barker was really bold at that time to get off of the alcohol. Like the gospel will give you strength. Like, read the Book of Mormon, and you'll find strength in doing so. And literally, with 6 weeks, he went through the shakes. He got off of it. He came clean. The next time we went over there, the windows were open and everything was clean. And we started teaching him the discussions, and he started coming to church. But being an addict is hard, right? Like, and so he was progressing, but I think I felt like maybe we pushed him a little hard, and he said he stopped, and then he was going off the bandwagon. But what happened was Sister Barker had health concerns, and I had to transfer to air. So I served in air for, like, I don't know, it was 3 weeks or whatever. Well, Sister Barker went home. And so I don't know if we were able to follow up with Peter or not. He did start coming to church, and I don't know if he stopped, but there was a power in the power that the gospel can bring to bring change into somebody's life. To see one aspect of it, where there's Coke and rum bottles, to this other aspect. Like, it can be very powerful, but he started to doubt himself and his ability. And as a 22-year-old, how much do you talk about addiction, and how much support do you need to be able to overcome that? And so I may not have understood the gravity of, I mean, to me it was a miracle, but like how much support he may have needed to continue on with that progression. So
Yeah, definitely.
But it was like, I remember that, like, going through stuff, I was like, I can't not talk about that, because whether he came into the waters of baptism or not, there was a power in giving it a go, like taking the time, putting the effort into it, going through the shakes, going through all of that, and then having that power to do that. So, like, it could come, but it's also a constant. You constantly have to be working at it too. So,
Yeah, agreed.
He didn't. What happened after? Because I went and served with Sister Miller, so Sister Schoenfeld, Sister Miller, and Sister Hart for 3 weeks, because Sister Barker went home 3 weeks into our first 6 weeks as trainers. She hated the MTC. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I see her on Facebook, but I haven't talked to her. She hated the MTC, and I think I prayed one time that she would like respect the MTC. It's horrible that I prayed that. And this is recorded, so she might see it in the future. She came back, and she was like wishing that she could go back to the MTC. I was like, oh dear. Anyway, and that's recorded. Sorry, Sister Barker. Anyway, so
Sister Barker, you can come on the podcast and refute Julie if you need to. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, there we go.
He was in the MTC with me, so I'd like to hear the story.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go. So I mean, I haven't talked to her since, and she got married and had a few kids and cut her hair short. That's about all I know about Sister Barker now. So, yeah. And COVID happened. I don't know what happened with COVID. Everybody's changed after COVID. So, anyway, so there was that. She served in Beef with Sister Kippen, and I went on to whitewash again. But I don't know. We had other people that we were teaching. There was this Allison Murray, single mom. I remember we went over, and that was with Sister Bonds and Beef. I think she was a media contact or referral. Single mom. And I remember going over there. She had like these 2 cute little girls And I was praying, and her kids were like, her little girls were climbing all over me. That's about all I know about Sister Allison Marie. I was like, but anyway, it was crazy. Beef, good times. I think they were prophesying that beef would be a steak. And so, that was the hard thing, right? Members were like, where's the growth? Where's this coming from? Like, they would question, like, is the church really growing in Scotland? But like looking through all of these memories, it was like there was a lot that was happening too. Anyway, I walked on air with Sister Hart and Sister Miller. Sister Miller was training with Sister Hart. That was kind of a refreshing experience because Sister Barker and I, your trainer, we were doing this. So, you know everything when you come out of the MTC, right? Anyway,
That's what they tell you.
something like that. And who knows? We'd butt heads. That was the never mind. Anyway, that comment. We'll leave that comment there. Anyway, we may not have always gotten along. So I went to air, and Sister Miller and Sister Hart were great. They had a great teaching pool. We saw something come into the waters of baptism. There was a guy, I remember going around with Sister Miller and Sister Hart, and there was this guy, I swear I saw him 12 times. So we go back to the Ron situation. He's like, find me and then you could teach me. There was this guy in air. Same thing. He was like, if you see me again, I'll give you my number. You see me again, I'll give you my number. Like 12 times. Like, if you see me again, like after the 12th time, I was like, so can we come and teach you? And he finally let us come and teach him. But it was like, elders in a different area saw him. And they're like, oh yeah, sisters, we saw this guy. And it was like, literally, we saw him 20 times, I don't know, 15, 20 times before we taught him the first discussion. And then I guess I did exchanges and came down to B, checked in on May McKenzie. May was, she wanted to get baptized, but I mean, like, May was 76. She's a like crumpled old lady, and I think she was afraid of getting baptized. She couldn't give up her cigarettes, but she'd come to church. Barry would come to church. I think there was another, Allison was coming to church. They were coming to general conference. There's some good invitations that were happening. So, and then Isabel and Jim came to the barbecue. There's stuff like that was happening. So, we saw miracles in Beef. I went to Sister Kippen came in, and I served with Sister Kippen, and then Sister Barker came back, and so I was in a trio. I guess there was three of us in Beef, and then I ended up moving on to Kilmarnock with Sister Laird, and so I served. We were co-seniors, Sister Laird and I, in Kilmarnock. So we went on to Kilmarnock, and there was some crazy stuff that happened in Kilmarnock. So, stories about Kilmarnock.
Such
as? Violet Gordon. So I don't know if any. Did you guys serve in Kilmarnock at all? I don't know.
No.
Okay. Violet Gordon was a media referral in Kilmarnock. And Sister Laird. I have some stories. I don't know if I'm going to tell that story or not. Anyway, poor Sister Laird. I struggled with it. She would clean and I would be like a mess. And I guess here's a story. She was cleaning once and she like hand washed the dishes and she'd put them in. And there was a pitcher that we drink from. And yeah, I'm actually going to tell you guys this because I don't know why. And I had licked the side of the pitcher, and I shouldn't have, but I did. And maybe that's who I was at the time. And she was like, Sister Cahoon, I now have to wash the outside of the pitcher, which she wasn't washing before. Like, Sorry, Sister Laird. I am a horrible person. I don't know. I know now not to do something like that. I might still do it, but anyway, I'll wash my own dish. It's fine. Yeah. I don't know. You really don't know how people go on this. That's fine. So there's that story. Sister Laird is trooper. She what is another story? Oh, okay. So we had given out pass along cards, and this was in Kilmarnock somewhere, and these kids like had to file these pass along cards, and Sister Laird was determined to just leave, and like they were defiling the pass along cards, right? And I'm like, I am not going to leave here until I sing a really bad rendition of "I Am a Child of God" and bear testimony to these kids defiling a pass along card. And so that was me. That I was sitting there singing "I Am a Child of God," really off key because I am not a singing bird at all. And that was me bearing testimony of Jesus Christ. That happened with Sister Laird. Violet Gordon. I'll go back to Violet Gordon. So going back to Violet Gordon, she was a media referral. She was legally blind. We went and started teaching her, and she gave us a few punches here and there. But Violet Gordon said she had this yellow packet, and she was like, I will listen to tapes. If you give me a tape, I will listen to it. And so she couldn't read because she was legally blind. And so I was like, oh, we probably should do something about this. And so I read the first discussion from because we had not yet gone over to Come Follow Me. We were still in the Purple Dragon, the 6 or 8 discussions or whatever. And so I had read the first discussion and recorded it on a cassette tape, and it was awful. It was awful. So I put it in this little pouch and send it to her. And I write to the mission home and President Rains, do you have the Book of Mormon on tape? Because we have this investigator. And so I guess we get the Book of Mormon on tape. We're missing the first 6 chapters. So I sent her the first discussion, and I sent her a tape with the Book of Mormon on tape, right? And I send it to her, and we go and teach her, and she's like, this first discussion was absolutely awful. I was like, well, that was me. Thank you very much. And then she was like, but this guy who speaks on this tape about the Book of Mormon, he's great. Keep on sending me this stuff. So she's listening to the Book of Mormon on tape, and she ends up, I got transferred out, but she ended up, there was somebody in the ward that she grew up with, and she'd come, and she's rambunctious, and she was up a hill. I think she was in Galveston, or I can't remember, but she said to me before I got transferred, she said, I had a dream, I could visually see myself get baptized. I just thought, okay, my work is done. She got baptized. I didn't see it, but it was part of the process, missionaries doing your work. And like I said, was it the perfect discussion? Probably not. Sister James came in. She was gung-ho about let's give commitments. Let's do this, and that's important in the process of baptism. But yeah, she got baptized. I put her name on the prayer roll and Barry Welsh's name on the prayer roll because I felt like those were the 2 individuals. So I felt that I helped bring into the waters of baptism years after. I'd always put their names on the prayer roll and when I went to the temple. But
cool.
I came across a missionary going to General Conference one year, and he had an S.E.M tie on. I was like, hey, did you ever serve in Kilmarnock? And he was like, yeah. And he's like, what about Violet Gordon? She's still going to church? And he's like, yep. And she's a very vocal individual. And I was like, okay, then I'm good. It was later on. It was like, you know what? She's still going. So I'm good. But Violet Gordon,
awesome.
there was that. What else?
Cool.
There's a guy named Olaf who drove us home. Eternal investigator. We went home on his double-decker bus because he dropped us off at the flat. I don't know what happened. Sister Laird told you a story about being impressed on, like what, we shouldn't do. We went into a guy's house and we knew we shouldn't have gone in, and the spirit told us we shouldn't have gone in, and there was that direction there. So that's a true story, what Sister Laird said. So we got Bible bashed in Kilmarnock. There's a guy, and I don't know if it was Sister James or Sister Laird, and he was a Messianic Jew, and this gave me a little bit of a whirlwind. I don't know, sometimes a Bible bashing session can mess you up for a little bit, but we went in there, and he had the Book of Mormon, and he had every error in the Book of Mormon, like, in front of us, and he dropped it down, and he said, "How can you say that there's no errors in this?" And it was just that thick. Messianic Jew. I was like, and I didn't have the words to say. I mean, like, you think as a missionary, you're like, I'm going to confound the wise, right? Or some awesome thing like that. And all I had was, what came to me was an experience that I had. It was in the Mount Timpanogos Temple, where I knew that God knew who I was, and I could not deny it. And all I had was, I cannot deny the things that have happened to me in this gospel. And that's all I had. But my head was spinning a little bit after that, I'll be honest. We saw him the next day, but I come back to it, and I always think, do I question my ability as a missionary? But I mean, I feel the spirit that, I did the best I could at the time, and maybe that was good enough. And so that happened in Kilmarnock. Sister Jane's, I stood with her. She's fiery. She's from Las Vegas. That's all I got from her. No, she was awesome. It was all about faith and commitments with Sister Jane's and teaching, which, I mean, I don't know. My head was probably spinning a little bit. Not to say I got messed up after training. I don't know. There's a confidence thing that I had going on, and you do the best you can. So, and the last area that I served in was in Kirkcaldy with Sister McLean. Sister McLean, she had, I don't know if I should talk health issues or not. She had a leaky heart valve, and she had restrictions on going out to proselyte. And all I've got with Sister McLean is, in the limited time that we had, we achieved our goals in the time frame that we had. And so the Lord helps out in that time frame. And he, with the limitations that we had, we were able to get our goals and to teach. And there were some very powerful experiences that we had. And he was very aware of Sister McLean as well. And it was important for her to, I think, like with Martha in her episode, she was talking about health issues in the mission. And with Sister McLean, it was important to obey those particular restrictions that she had. If she was going to endure her mission for the time that she needed to endure her mission, like, she needed to live within those restrictions. And she pushed back a little bit on that, but the Lord still blessed us because of her willing heart. I mean, you come out with a leaky heart valve, and I don't know. I mean, you have a desire to serve. The Lord wouldn't, he wouldn't take advantage of that. And we saw miracles happen with the restrictions that we had. So, and there's probably more to talk about, but that's some of the experiences that I had in Scotland.
That was
that
great.
I can remember. So hopefully that
That was
can
really good.
bring some laughs and some fun times to
I'm
your
sure it will.
podcast listeners. But yeah, I was given like two other things I'll just share with you. I was given a blessing that said that what the memories that I had in Scotland would be with me throughout my life, and it has been with me throughout my life. Even there was a member, and there wasn't a member. There was an investigator in B called Dick Graham that I think Mr. Bond and I chapped into, and just even his experience where he was ready to close the door on us, and then he let us in. Like those experiences, some of them I have forgotten, right? But looking back on it, and this is what I love about the podcast for the small episodes that I have launched, is that you're giving missionaries opportunities to just see how much of the Lord's hand was in their mission. Like going back to it, like I said, I felt like it was a failure on my mission, and I felt inadequate and a whole bunch of other stuff. There was something else going on too with that, but it's been nice to see that there was things that happened. We didn't bring 10 people into the waters of baptism, but the Lord's hand was in it. So there was that piece. And then President Rains, I know you asked, like, what's your impression of President Rains and stuff like that. And I don't know if you're going to go into that. But
that was my next question, Julie.
Even though I'm just talking your ears off.
No, you're doing great. But yes, tell us about your favorite memories of President Sister Rains.
President Sister Rains, I'll be honest, I struggled a little bit with President Rains, but he was called to the work and he was there. I grew up in the Colorado Littleton Stake, and he knew the Alfreys, I think. So Kateri Alfrey, I grew up with, I think they're related. And so President Rains had a soft and gentle heart. I remember him tearing up over the precious things of the gospel. And so, like, that testimony was very important and sacred to him. And he's a businessman, right? I mean, he has Modern Display and Salt Lake. I don't know if he's still doing it. I know I watched the episode where he's got dementia, and I feel for him because my mom's got dementia. And he's got a racquetball court in the basement of his Modern Display. Good on him. So he's a Utes fan. We'll take that. And I think he tried to do the best he could with me. So Sister Rains, I would always say I try, and she's like, "Don't try, do, Sister Cahoon." And then she was always concerned because I was a little bit bustier and bigger as a missionary, and she's like, "Don't do this, Sister Cahoon. Do this, Sister Cahoon," and stuff like that. So I think she had the best interest at heart. I remember the story where she crashed one of the cars on the mission. Anyway, positive experiences. They were just this good sweet couple. I mean, like, for the age, them, like, for where they were at their life, just the heart that they had and the love of the gospel and doing their best at that time. They're good people. They're good people. So President Brains gave me a blessing when I left, and I really appreciated it because it's been something that I appreciated it from him. Like, as much as I kind of struggled with my confidence and abilities, but he said that your testimony of Jesus Christ would be sealed upon your heart when I left, and that has always kind of rang in my ears after the mission. And so that's another thing about President Brains. He was worthy, and he held his calling in reverence, and he did what the Lord asked of him at that time. And to ask of that for anybody during these times that we're in says a lot, for him to sacrifice. And so that's my shout out to President Burns. So, I mean, and Scotland wasn't easy. So, or at least from my experience, it wasn't easy.
Yeah. No, I can agree. I mean, you said it very well. Everything about President Brains, you hit it on the head. So well said, Julie. Thank you. Well, we really appreciate you taking time tonight. I know that there's plenty of episodes for you to catch up on, but the people that we struggle with most often is convincing some of our fellow sisters to come on the podcast. So is there any of your companions that you'd like to call out and tell them to get on the podcast in the future?
I don't know. I don't know if you can get. I think Sister Jones is kind of fired up right now. Kelly Jones, if you can get her. She just visited Scotland, so she's kind of fired up about it. And Sister Stanger, I don't know if you can find her. I just can't remember a lot. I know she got married. Sister Kippen, I don't know. Did you interview Sister Kippen? And I didn't see it. Probably.
I reached out to her early on when we started doing the podcast because she was in Bridge of Dawn when I was a brand new missionary, and she wasn't quite ready to come on yet. So I'm still in touch with her there. I'll keep trying.
Okay. I think you should reach out to Sister McLean, Sister Barker.
Yeah.
I haven't. Sister Hart, if you can find Sister Hart, she's a little powerhouse. But that's all I have. I mean, because you talked to Lorna, Sister Laird, you talked to Heather Bond, you talked to Martha. Those were So, and you talked
I know for a certainty that Sister McLean is on our future schedule. So I don't know exactly when, but in the coming months, we'll be in touch with her. And then I had a recent conversation via Facebook Messenger with Stephanie Janes. She's teaching overseas right now. And so she's like, I don't have any of my journals, but if I can get to them in the future, I'll let you know. So she's a future participant. We just aren't sure when the timing will line up, but we'll keep trying with her.
That's cool. Yeah, I know she's like teaching in Cairo or something. I don't know. Good on her for going out there and loving the world. So that's cool. Yeah, Stephanie James. There you go. So, okay, but
good. Well, Julie,
for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. We want to express to you our love for being our sister in Scotland and taking the time to share your experiences with us. I'm sure that many who knew you in the mission and loved you in the mission will love hearing your experiences as you've shared tonight. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, and thank you guys for doing this. I think it's a wonderful gift to just the elders and sisters, and also for the members in Scotland. So thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Julie.
Okay.
Cheerio now. We'll talk to you more soon. All right, bye.
Better than new.